Today's broadcast is brought to you by audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download as well. It's a 30-day trial at audibletrial.com/broadscast. If you're anything like us, listening to books is much more doable. So go to audibletrial.com/broadcast.
Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Hey, everybody.
What's up,
Welcome to
party
Broadscast.
people? Hi.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Jackie.
So how are you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic.
Are you feeling blue?
I think this is a trick question.
Do you have the middle school blues?
Oh, I was like, where's this going?
Well, do you know, there's a little Wall Street Journal article that says moms feel most stressed about parenting when their children are in middle school. This is new research, people.
It is research, but
and you have one in middle school.
I do have one in middle school. I feel good. You know what's interesting to me?
There's a reason we're going here.
Okay.
It is Mental Health Month. Correct?
It is Mental Health Awareness Month. Yeah. So I have recognized, and I've said this for a long time, that like when I was a parent to my toddler, it was just a physically exhausting job. Mm-hmm. As he's gotten older, it's been more mentally exhausting because I'm always paying attention to things I say and life lessons and how to be a good role model and when I can teach him certain things in life. And as he's maturing, he understands. And so ironically, my son and I were talking last night in the car, and we were talking about a friend of his that is very competitive. And I said, why do you think that your friend is very competitive with you? And he said, well, maybe because he's the third child in his house and he doesn't get a lot of, validation at home. And I was like, very good. Like the point was that it was interesting.
About my kid?
No, we were just talking about like why people do certain things, and the fact that my son and I could have a conversation about other people's behavior and his role as a helper and a friend. Then I started to lecture him, of course, because I found an in to talk to him about, like how to be sensitive to others, and you don't ever know what their story is. And sometimes people act out of an insecurity. But anyway, I said to him, like, I know that you sound like I'm droning on, but I have a responsibility to teach you, I said, because you're on your own a lot. And so when I read this article today, there was a big point about it that kids, as they mature and they go into middle school, that there's a lot of independence. And there's freedom, and that's what it separates the parent from the child a little bit. And the schools are encouraging parents to step away and give the longer leash. And it is anxiety provoking because you are really thrusting your child out into the world and trusting the world to be kind and good. And you don't always have this watchful eye. And I get nervous. Like, I get nervous about that.
I remember the first time, one of my kids came home from preschool singing a song I hadn't taught them. And it was like, whoa, what is happening here? Like, there's an outside world that I have no part of. So as they go into junior high, my son is about to graduate from 6th grade, so, and he already is like, oh, you don't have to do this field trip, or I'm not necessarily ready for it.
Yes,
but at the same time,
it's really liberating, to be honest with you. I mean, I was the school parent that I was there every week. I was the room parent. I decorated the doors. I did all the class parties. I loved being able to be that involved. At junior high, they don't encourage that. You can come and volunteer and put up chairs for the award ceremony, but you don't get to go to the classroom. I mean, you are encouraged to communicate with teachers, but there is a real disconnect. And if you choose to allow that to be a positive thing, it can be healthy, but it still evokes a little bit of anxiety. But there are parents that use it as an opportunity to like walk away. And because of the work that I do with teens, I see that as an out for a lot of parents. Now, and kids react to that.
But which comes first, though? Like, are parents walking away because, I can finally walk away? Or are they walking away because it's so painful to, like, that middle ground is painful to be there for your child, but not to be allowed to be there in the way that you were before?
Well, I'm using school specifically that, walking away from that element. There are lots of people that use the excuse of my kid can be on their own. We tend to leave our kids home for longer periods of time without, parental involvement. Like, you go to the grocery store, that time tends to expand when your kids demonstrate, more maturity and responsibility. Mm-hmm. Parents sometimes will use that as, my kid's good. So they don't check in as much. They don't ask about their friends. They don't pay attention to homework because you now trust your kid to be more independent. And that's where the disconnect comes. And but if you are a connected parent and you disconnect, because that's what happens as kids, that they tend to leave the nest a little bit. Right. That can be anxiety provoking, because now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm trusting that I've instilled good values, that now that my kid's independent, they're going to make good choices. There's a difference.
So your advice then, as you know, I mean, doing the work that you do with teens anyway, is to let them have that independence, but not to give up that parenting, that really active parenting role.
Yeah.
Which makes perfect sense on paper, but like emotions come into play.
Yeah.
So like, I can now, let's say I can go down and get a pedicure without having to, which I'm not there yet because I still have a 9, 10, you know.
Yeah.
But I can go down and get a pedicure while my kid is at practice and being dropped off by somebody else or whatever, that you're no longer like, how is practice? You know, like you used to pick up right there and be right there, and you'd get like,
or you'd sit in practice
reaction.
Because you didn't want to. So you could say, "Did you see?" Yeah,
yes, and you're like, "Oh, what happened there?" Because you saw it or whatever.
Well,
but and that's one of the reasons too that I've always been a huge proponent for being the person to pick my kids up from school.
Yeah,
I feel like there's something to be said for catching them in the moment.
Yeah,
you know, like right after, and not allowing them not. You know, when they process and then they can blow it off later.
Right.
Something that really upset them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
You know, what's interesting to me is because, you know, in elementary school, you have to go get your kid. Like they can't leave.
Right.
But in junior high, their kids are walking all over the neighborhood, and you just kind of have to find your kid on the street. Like it's totally different. I don't go pick them up. I just sit and wait for them. It's weird. But I check with my son almost once a month. Who do you sit with at lunch? Do you ever feel lonely? Do you feel like you have friends? Because I don't have any, you know, I mean, all year I've been saying to him, is there anybody that you want to spend time with or hang out with on the weekends? No. And I said, are you making good friends? Yes. I said, but they're just school friends. Yes. Last night in the car, he said, Mom, remember when you talked to me about the summertime? And I said, where are you going with this? And he said, I have a friend that I would like to hang out with over the summer. But it took him all year.
What's her name?
It took him all year to be able to establish
right.
wanting to have a relationship with someone outside of school. But
right.
I was planting the seed all year. And at some point, it's not my responsibility to force play dates. We never did play dates, but but it's not my responsibility anymore. Mm-hmm. Like I have to let him develop and evolve using the skills that I hopefully have instilled in him, and then up my anxiety medication. It's hard. It's really hard. I related to every element in that story, with the exception of the fact that they didn't talk to fathers. I didn't like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't like that. But otherwise, everything resonated with me.
The whole article, you can find that on broadscast.com.
And you, as a mother who is now having a child go into junior high, you probably shouldn't read that.
Yeah, I already did, and so now I've cried myself to sleep.
You'll be great.
No, but you know, I sometimes take things. It's good for me to learn what I should be doing and how I should let go. But I also, my oldest is the one with special needs, and so it's like every time we move forward in that way, and then we move back, you know, so it's like, it's a constant tango.
But you have 3 kids that have very unique personalities from each other. So your parenting is going to be different for each of the 3. You're going to have a standard in your home, but each kid, like Lucy's going to be, you know, far more independent than, I mean, there's just, you're going to
She already is.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah. But if, you know, it's funny because I kind of use my middle child as the gauge for when they're ready for things, because, you know, I may let the boys on occasion stay while I run down and grab some milk at the grocery store.
Right.
But I wouldn't let them stay individually.
Right.
You know, like my middle son's 10 and, you know, my older one just turned 12. And so if the two of them together, I feel like equal one really solid brain decision making.
Yeah. It's hard. This is when all the things that you've been taught and read about, this is when it gets put to the test, because this is when life actually happens. You know, now the challenges are before them, and this is when the tough gets going.
Let's get on to the show, baby.
Let's do it.
So today, because of Mental Health Awareness Month in May, that's really tough to say. We are going to talk to 2 very important guests. Linda Barron-Katz is the author of, I love that she wrote a children's book for mental health. It's called Peter and Lisa, a mental illness children's story. And then we're also going to talk to Lynn Goldberg, the founder of OMG I Can Meditate app, because we all know how you love to meditate. And so
I like
she's
to
going to
meditate
give
with
us,
my wine.
but she's going to give us some like real simple,
Tips.
little bite-sized tips that will bring a little more peace and mental well-being into our lives.
Fantastic.
So we will be right back with those guests.
You're listening to Broadscast with Jackie McDougall and Kim Goldman.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. They're huge in anywhere other than somewhere that you've been before.
Welcome back to Broadscast.
So glad I stayed.
So I love when you bring your expertise in mental health and to the table, but you also have a reach to bring other people with their really important stories. And so our first guest is an author and a mental health advocate. Linda Barron-Katz is on the line with us. She's the author of Surviving Mental Illness, My Story, as well as Peter and Lisa, a mental illness children's story.
Which I just want to make a comment about the Surviving Mental Illness, My Story. It won a silver medal award for reader's favorite, right? Mm-hmm. Linda, is that right? For best nonfiction autobiography, and came in first place, and you won Life's Journey Award. I mean, come on now, girl.
Welcome to the
show.
Thank you.
Good. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you were able to use your experience for such important work.
Well, mental illness has been a factor in my family. It's no secret. My mother was the first person to develop a mental illness, and it had a major impact on our family, especially with me. Mm-hmm. And eventually, I later became a depressed person growing up as an adult. And I knew my mother's mental illness would have an impact on me later in life.
Right.
And it did, because throughout high school and college, I saw counselors, psychologists. I also had a major infatuation over a man in college. And after I graduated college, I had been looking for a job in the business world, and it was very hard to find, and it was very hard for me to get interviews.
So, Linda, not only did you write about your own experience in your first book, but you also put, the words together for a children's book. How did you come up with that idea, and how do you approach such a serious topic, an important topic, with children?
Well, I didn't have children of my own, and I wanted to write something for children about mental illness, something that a lot of children don't understand. And I wanted to write a book in their own language. And since my husband, Charles, has a childlike personality, and with my knowledge of mental illness, we both wanted to accomplish writing this children's story, Peter and Lisa. And it was a great thing we did, because we both wanted to show the world, to show children as well as parents, that people with mental illness can get better, can live happily, and can manage for themselves.
Do you feel like between these two books and the work that you do with NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, that you're changing the conversation about mental illness? I mean, do you think it's having an impact?
Oh, yes, definitely. Wherever I go, I just had a NAMI FaithNet event with NAMI, and we had over 45 people attended, and it was about the clergy's role in psychiatric hospitals.
Wow.
And I was a chairperson for the event, and it really felt great to be a part of something, to belong, and to be bringing these clergies and members together and talk about their roles, their religious faith, their roles, and the way they interact with their patients. So it was all very interesting.
Do you feel like a lot has changed regarding people's views on mental illness from when you were younger and living in a home where it was prevalent? Do you feel like there's been a big shift from then until today?
Oh, yes. Back then, people wouldn't even talk about mental illness. People could not even speak it. In fact, when I was growing up and when my mother got sick, I could not invite friends over. I could not invite people over because my dad and my mom wanted me to keep it quiet about her illness.
Right.
And when I started to educate others, my father kept saying, "You're raising a flag wherever you go. Don't talk about your mental illness so much." And I really felt stigmatized by that because I'm this person that felt like you can get rid of the stigma by more education about it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's perfect.
What kind of tips do you give people when they're working with or have someone in their family that they is suffering from a struggling with a mental illness? What kinds of things can you share with us?
Well, people with mental illness go through difficult times. I know for me, when I was going through my manic episodes, it was all bundled up together. I lost contact with reality. I had done shopping sprees. I said things that weren't even true.
Right.
And I had less trouble sleeping. I mean, all these things. But I think people who suffer from schizophrenia, they have the most to worry about because they really lose contact with reality. Not only do they get paranoid and suspicious of everyone, of every little tiny thing, but they completely lose touch. And some people cannot even admit that they're ill.
Right. But one of the messages that I think you deliver in your writing and in the purpose for your book is that there is hope, there is a recovery, and there's a way to live with a mental illness so that you can have a full life, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's such important work that you're doing, Linda.
Thank you. As today I work as a certified peer specialist, and that is someone who is a peer with mental illness who helps other people with mental illness work on their goals, on their recovery. And I'm real glad about that I'm giving back to the people who gave me my life back.
Well, we celebrate you, and we are so grateful that you're on the show today. And we thank you very much for, your sharing your experience and helping others.
And we'll put a link up for your book on our website so that people can read more about you. Your book, Surviving Mental Illness, My Story. Linda, I appreciate you wanting to talk about this and break some of the myths and stigmas about mental health and mental illness. So more power to you, lady, and we wish you good luck in your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll be right back with more Broadscast. Why should you become a Broadscast sponsor? Broad multimedia exposure, including radio, web, iTunes, YouTube, and social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
A quick, easy way to reach your target demo, women. Exclusive, limited time only, affordable introductory rates.
Plus, 20 years experience in on-air and online marketing. We produce your one-of-a-kind creative in-house, saving you time and money.
For more on becoming a Broadscast sponsor, visit broadscast.com today.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. They're huge in anywhere other than somewhere that you've been before.
Welcome back to Broadscast. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
So I'm excited for this next one because, I'm all into the whole self-help and making our lives better. Kim is already rolling her eyes at me, which I love. But we have...
I like to self-help myself with wine.
See, that's self-sabotage, but I don't know. Actually,
Glass half full in my house.
Glass always half full. But we've got Lynn Goldberg with us today. She's a certified meditation coach, yoga instructor, strategic interventionist. My gosh, that's easy to say. And author of the book Get Balanced, Get Blissed. And also the founder of the app OMG I Can Meditate. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Hi.
Great to be here.
Thank you. So we have you on and you're this expert, but you weren't always can you take us back a little bit in your journey and how you got from point A to point B?
Absolutely. I was big on self-sabotage. Definitely wine was my coping mechanism of choice. No, but I had started meditating when my whole life fell apart. So my mom had been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And at the same time that she was going through all of her treatments and everything, her doctor suggested that she try meditation. Mm-hmm. And I was going through infertility. So, of course, everyone kept saying, if you just relax, you'll get pregnant. And there's nothing that you want to do except for throttle people when they say that to you.
Right.
And then my whole life fell apart. I lost my job. My marriage broke up. I lost the twins. Everything sort of happened around the same time. And the one constant thing that I had going was that I did have this emergency meditation practice that had sort of kept me at least okay at 4 a.m. when I would wake up with that pounding heart. And so I had sort of started relying on that and found that when everything else fell apart, the one thing that did work for me was meditation, better than the wine, actually. It was something that, when I would drink to fall asleep, I would wake up at 2. But if I meditated, then I was able to sleep through the night. And it helped me keep calm in situations that were really stressful. And it gave me a different sort of perspective and relationship to a lot of the stuff that was happening. So it was a lifesaver, a game changer, really.
So you said emergency meditate. Go back to that. What do you explain that?
What I mean?
Yeah.
So, I knew I had something that worked, but I didn't do it consistently. So I would use it in emergencies. And I would feel good for that emergency, but it wasn't like a long-term way to really stop or cultivate a practice. It was more of, stopgap measure. When I actually took the time to really develop the practice is when I call it like birth control pills, right? So it's kind of the same thing with the practice. You sort of build up this cushion for when life events sort of happen.
When you talk about meditation, I mean, that's just breathing. Yes?
Right.
I mean, I love meditation, but I call it by its original name, going back to bed, as I like to say. But, break down meditation because everybody's talking about it and it's frou, it comes across as this like new agey frou-frou thing. I mean, it's been around forever. But break it down for us a little bit.
So I think what you're asking me is the benefit. Is that what you're asking me about the benefits?
No, I'm asking you meditation as a whole. What is it? Like if you were to tell somebody who's never heard anything about meditation, what is it?
So all it is just noticing where your mind is at any given time. So you notice whatever the object of your attention is. It could be your breath, or it could be, mantra, or it could be parts of your body. And you notice that your mind goes off into thought, and you catch yourself and you come back to whatever the object of your attention is. And as you consistently do that, you develop a lot of things. You develop the ability to catch yourself and come back to the object of your attention, which can help you when your mind goes off in those ruminating thoughts. You also really help yourself. You become very good at basically at noticing where your mind actually is. So often we're doing a million things at once, right? We're busy. I'm sure most of us have driven to work and gotten there and not realized where we were for the past 20 minutes. So,
Kim,
I
have.
So when all of us have, or especially today. So as we develop this singular focus, this ability to really concentrate and keep our mind in one time, we're really cultivating that ability to be present, but we're also helping ourselves be single-minded in whatever we're attending to. And so you bring your full body mind together when you're meditating. It's that idea of one breath, one moment, really. You're bringing it together, your mind and your body into the same place at the same time. And so that's beneficial for so many reasons.
And how long does it take to get to the place where you can wander off in your mind and then get yourself back to being present? It doesn't work for me. I mean, when I try to slow down and breathe, I get more anxiety ridden because I've now allowed all of my panic and nervousness and lists of things I need to do into my brain, and I can't. That's like the worst thing for me. So how long does it take?
So I was exactly like you. Honestly, taking a pause for me was torture. It was absolute torture. And the only thing that I would, what they say, pay attention to your mantra or pay attention to your breath. And the only thing that I would be thinking of, how much longer, how much longer, how much longer. It was torture. So it takes a couple of weeks to really start to develop that attention muscle. It's neuroplasticity, basically. The more you do something, the better at it you get. So as you develop that, you get better at it. But the peace and quiet and stillness, some days are better than others. What you learn to do is not to bring judgment to it. And that's really the practice. So you asked me about what meditation is. It's also cultivating those other strengths, which is, okay, so my mind is off wandering, but that doesn't mean that I'm not good at this. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or that I'm too anxious or all the other value judgments that we place on our performance. I call it performance anxiety, meditation performance anxiety.
So I have a funny question. Your voice is the voice on the app, right? Because I'm listening to you and I'm like, voice sounds so familiar.
Kim's feeling very relaxed right now.
I'm putting myself back into my because I tried it, and your voice is very soothing. I'm assuming that's you.
Yeah,
okay.
It is me.
All right.
And sorry, go ahead. What's the question?
So no, part of it, like I said, for me, I practiced the meditation with my son. He loved it and was like, this is awesome. Can we do this all the time? And I was like what you just said, how much longer? I found myself like getting very restless and like starting to get itchy. And I was like, I'm uncomfortable and I want to change positions. And I was just trying to like be a good role model for my son who was totally zenned out. And I was like, oh my God, how much longer? But it really was such an exercise for me in just patience. And I love what you said about not attaching judgment, because that's what I found myself doing was like, why can't I even get through 5 minutes of just stillness? So I appreciate it. I don't really have a question other than a statement that's a really good practice, I think, for us always to not attach judgment to the things we're trying.
Because I think we are looking to say, I did it right. Or I did it wrong.
Yeah, because I kept thinking, I'm not doing it right. My son's all zenned out, and I'm not doing it right. How does he know how to do this?
Because he doesn't, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit better, Lynn, but like when kids do it, kids are totally comfortable with being in the moment. Like they don't have to have a schedule that's from morning to night and then judge themselves if they're not constantly on the go. They'll just be and be cool with it, right?
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's that being idea that we're like not human doings, we're human beings, and we're so not comfortable with that. We are so expected to perform, and how are we doing? And so that idea of just sitting and just being is very uncomfortable for most of us. again, allowing yourself to get in touch with your physical body when we're so usually not in our bodies, it's very empowering.
So let's talk a little bit about. So everybody talks about the benefits, and I'm not really sure I understand the benefits. It's kind of, again, one of those like marketing things that I don't. So can you break it down and talk about the benefits and how they really help, how meditation really helps us?
Absolutely. So, there's this whole idea that meditation is the biggest stress reliever. And if you really consider what it is, thousands and thousands of years ago, we had a fight-flight reaction. You've heard of fight-flight. You studied in school, right? So that idea of if we were going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, you needed to get away from it. And so what happens is you couldn't pause. You couldn't go into this whole long evaluative process because you'd be lunch. So we release cortisol. We release adrenaline. Our heart rate goes up. Our blood pressure goes up. Because you're about to get attacked, you're not eating food anytime soon. You're about to run away. So your digestive juices start, they're not flowing properly. Your blood platelets get sticky. Because if a saber-toothed tiger is going to attack you, then you don't want to bleed out. So you've got all kinds of things, physical things that happen to your body when we're feeling stressed. And today's stress isn't actually, being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. It could be anything from,
clearly
having
you've never been in the PTA.
Exactly. No, but you've got so many other ways that we experience stress today. So what happens when you meditate is a whole bunch of antidotes, basically. We're releasing oxytocin. Oxytocin is the nursing mom's hormone. You've got serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone. All of those, your blood platelets normalize, your digestive juices are working, we're functioning properly. We actually build our immune system. And so all of those things are beneficial to our body on a daily basis. But what physically happens over time, and you ask me how long does it take before you actually build that attention muscle, we actually change our brain structure. So the amygdala, which is that ancient part of our brain that's responsible for the fight-flight reaction, actually shrinks. And our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for executive functioning, for our interactions with people, relationships, that kind of stuff, actually grows. So that's why it's so good.
Wow. I didn't realize it actually changes how your brain works.
Physiological stuff.
So I have to go and meditate now. Excuse me. So before we've only got about a minute left, but tell us a little bit about your app. Like how is your app different from? I've gone on to look up meditation and got on and downloaded and deleted many meditation apps because they weren't for me. I do use yours, but tell us why it's different.
So what I think is really special about our app is that it's designed for someone who has never meditated before, with the idea that we build you up slowly. So it starts at 10 minutes a day, which is really, you can get a lot of benefit from 10 minutes a day. But we then increase or allow you to increase your time. So eventually we take away the music, we help you, or you can take away the music. It's always at your discretion. We build up the time. We also set an alarm function for you. So built into the app is the ability to set your alarm and wake up with the meditation first thing in the morning. So many people say, I don't have time to meditate. So we really tried to take that into consideration. We also built in this serenity circle, which is the ability to communicate with a buddy, work with somebody, have somebody within your group so you really can create a support system for yourself. We have hundreds of situational meditations. So we have something from my boss is a jerk to waiting in line, so many different things really, so that you have 2-minute meditations, 5-minute meditations, and then the core program is this 12-week program that takes you from A to Z, that builds up all the rest of the stuff, from non-judgment to perspectives to really your relationships, all of it, and really helps you develop that practice so that everything else becomes you can develop your meditation practice so that it can take into your everyday life. And that's really what we're hoping to do, right? Not just use it for the 10 minutes on the chair.
And then ultimately people can be able to meditate anywhere. It doesn't always have to be in the same place. Like, you want people to be empowered to be able to do it, at their desk, or like excuse themselves if they are having a moment at work or at school or whatever it is, right? I mean, that's the ultimate goal, to be able to just
use it as a tool.
Right.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about a portable phone is that you could take it anywhere, so it's always with you. We have one for on the subway. Anything you can imagine, we have it for your desk, so that you can really use it when you need it, but also help you at home, so that when you are developing and cultivating this practice, you can use it anywhere. We also, the idea behind it, and you spoke to that, is that it is a tool, and ultimately a tool is only useful to you if you use it. So the only thing you have to do is turn it on.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn Goldberg, and you can download the app at iTunes and or the App Store, and also Google Play.
OMG, I Can Meditate, and we're
everywhere. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your expertise.
And my son thanks you too.
Yes.
Thank you, Lynn.
And Kim's got a very Zen child now. Yeah. Okay, thanks so much. So, it's funny. I wonder if they have a version where it's like my co-host is driving me crazy, because that would really benefit you.
Yeah, that's in the Serenity Circle.
Come on, Kim. We could start a Broadscast Serenity Circle.
Listen, I've said this to you. I appreciate it. It is not something that is comfortable for me. So maybe I just don't stay with it long enough.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a deep reader. Like, I always I slow myself down. I guess I just don't I don't know. I'm always at the video. I'm always at the type at the place in the meditation where it says, "Okay, now I know you're going off into some other conversation. Come back." And I'm like, "How did they know that I was off in some other conversation?" It's always right around 3 minutes, and then I'm like,
because that's everybody, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's good for us to stop and breathe, and I could be even just it. I think it's not necessarily. I don't necessarily stop and lie down and spend 20 minutes and just breathe, but it does give me that mindset that on occasion that I'll be in the car, waiting to pick up the kids from school, and I have 2 minutes, and then I'll just shut everything off and just breathe. I won't necessarily close my eyes, but not let my brain go everywhere. I don't know.
I have not experienced that with you. Just kidding.
But that my brain's not going everywhere? Yeah, everywhere. Well, the more
our conversations are like, boom, boom, boom.
Well, that's exactly why that's why we have a podcast. Yeah. So, anyway.
I love it. Oh, that was good.
Yeah. So,
we'll be right back. You're listening to Broadscast with Jackie McDougall and Kim Goldman. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is the Monkey. My parents run the best social media company around. Go to starksocial.com today.
Welcome back to Broadcast.
I was totally getting into the jingle. I was like,
right? It was cute.
Yeah.
So super cute. Oh
my gosh.
So thank you so much to Linda Barron-Katz and Lynn Goldberg today.
It's a mouthful.
I know there's lots of names. For just talking about mental illness and also, as much as we know that it touches everybody's lives, I think that we all need to take those efforts to kind of check in, we go and get physicals, right?
Right.
So I know that meditation and you're all poo-poo, or whatever, but if there are little things that we can do throughout our day to keep us at a place that is healthy mentally and spiritually and, emotionally and all those, I think.
Well, I think we all strive to find balance and a sense of calm. And when life is more chaotic, now we hopefully can have some tools to help keep some things in check. And so I appreciate Linda showing us that. And then
and Lynn and her.
Lynn, thank you. Having a mental poopy.
I know, Lynn and Linda.
There's two worlds that you wouldn't think would go together, but they do. And I appreciate both lessons that we learned from them.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, next week we've got some big stuff. So make sure you tune in. And you could always find us on Facebook and Twitter at Broadscast Show, Instagram. I'm still pushing Kim toward that Snapchat. Soon we will also be doing a few Facebook Live special events. She doesn't know about this yet, but it's happening.
Big secret over here. Broadcast.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.